So I'll kind of give a brief outline of everything that we're going to be talking about today, and we're going to talk about the importance of religion to ourselves, but also how that correlates with mental health. So we have the wonderful Igor, I'm going to go in order as I see it, the lovely Pooja, amazing Samson, and the cheeky Saba, as most of us know him for running his mouth around the office. So I guess without sounding like it's too bad of a joke, I guess we have a rabbi, a Christian, and someone from the Hindu faith. But we won't go down that route because it's probably not the right audience for it. But I guess we'll kick off with kind of asking, what does your faith mean to you and why is it important? And let's go with Igor first, because you're first in my line.
Yes. I will give a very short answer, and I'm going to talk about faith and not religion, because I make a distinction between them. My faith gives me the sense that I am not alone, whether it's in joyful moments or in sad moments or just in general in life. I think that's what it means to me.
Pooja, how about for you?
So faith to me manifests in two ways, belief and practice. I grew up Hindu, so my parents instilled in me beliefs from a very young age. And then as I went on, I sort of discovered things for myself as well. So beliefs like God is the all doer, and then the soul is eternal and unchanging, imperishable. And then about the world as well, that we are all one family. There's this beautiful quote from one of the Upanishads, which is like the ancient Hindu text, that says Vasudeva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. So my faith means like all of these beliefs and how I practice them as well, how I put those beliefs into my practice.
Thanks, Pooja. Samson.
Yeah, I guess for me, faith is primarily a relationship, a personal relationship with Jesus, which then transpires into a lifestyle. And by that, I mean, it becomes what styles my life. It becomes the anchor to which kind of keeps me in check based on that relationship, that conversation and communication to move on and to make decisions in life.
Thanks, Samson. Saba.
Well, good afternoon to everyone who's watching. Faith means to me, it's a way of life. It's a code of conduct. It gives me some direction within my life. Faith for me has taught me to put others first before myself, and to be there for humanity, to serve God and serve his creation, and to create a link with God Almighty.
It's what's really nice to hear is that actually out of kind of the range that we've got here is that there are so many similarities and unison in what we're saying. And like faith is one of those things that is such a particularly now in this day and age, a very controversial subject for no matter what faith you are. And I'm not a particularly religious person, but I do have a lot of faith. And so faith for me has always been about, I don't know, faith has always just brought me solace. It's brought me a bit of peace. It makes me feel a bit more comfortable in the world, mainly because obviously I grew up around it. And that's what I've always kind of slightly kept it at arm's length, but also always been drawn into it, which is always so let's talk about really the bigger reason why we're here, and is basically how religion and mental health are combined. Because what for me would be really interesting is how, particularly in all of your sects, how it would be, how you guys have been working with it. And like mental health is obviously such a big part of society now. You know, it's one of those things that wasn't even discussed, or even like, it was a taboo word. You know, if you said to someone about mental health several years ago, they would have been like, oh, stop your silliness, suck it up and, you know, move on. And I speak from like my Asian community, you know, we were never told about anything to do with mental health. You know, we were just told to suck it up and get on with it, and that's life. But obviously that time has changed. And it's a good thing that it's changed, because I'm glad it's changing. People are a lot more open, people are a bit more understanding. So it would be really good to kind of understand how your faith, your religions, your communities have been working within mental health. Who wants to go first? Oh. It's always nice to get a bit of dead silence. Do I have to pick on people? Come on, guys.
Come on, I'll go first.
Go on, Sarah.
So mental health is a massive topic nowadays. And the thing is, with mental health, it's not always visible. You can't always see that someone's struggling. The first thing, which is really important, is to always understand and know that if you need professional help, then go and get that help and seek that help from someone who is trained and is in the know of how to deal with anxiety or depression or stress or whatever falls under the category of mental health. Secondly, when it comes to faith and religion, it's important to turn to faith in the sense that when you pray, you take yourself away from the world and the rat race of life, and sometimes stress can overtake your whole life and you get caught up and entangled in the life which you have. With prayer, it allows you to extract yourself from the world, have some time out, 10-15 minutes, to collate your thoughts, and just to create that link with your maker, and that's on your personal level. As a community, there's auxiliary organizations within our community itself all over the world who are responsible for different age groups and categories within the community. On a weekly basis, we have meetings across the UK and across the world, where obviously now it's all virtual over Zoom and social media, but also making phone calls and checking in with your peers and your colleagues and your friends who are in the community to see if they're okay, and to ask them if they need any help. And having that one-to-one personal relationship with individuals allows them to alleviate any stress or frustration or problems with someone who they trust from the community, and that allows them to overcome any challenges which they might be dealing with.
So let's go to you, Samson, because I'll go reverse.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. I think the one of the critical things for me is the fact that the Lord is very aware of the need for our mental health to be just as sound. In the book of 3 John 1, it says, I pray that you prosper and that you be in good health, just as your soul prospers. Now, the Christian believes that the soul is a culmination of the mind, the intellect, the emotions, and the will. So that your mind is saying, I'm not just asking that you be okay, but I want you to be okay fully, your body, but also your mind. The Bible tells us in the book of 2 Timothy, that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but he has given us power, love, and a sound mind. So right into the heart of it is this desire that we should be balanced, not just physically, spiritually, obviously, but also in our mind.
Pooja, how about for the Hindu community?
So I think mental health is innately tied with the idea of the soul, the spirit in Hinduism. The soul is the real self. The material body is just, because we believe in reincarnation, the material body is just something that we just go through several lives. But the thing that stays with us is our soul. And so when we come to recognize ourselves as a soul, we sort of shed this material body and we see past the limiting ego as it is. And because the material body and the mind is a part of the material body, the more attached we are to that, the more sort of we recognize ourselves in it. And obviously, there is a distinction between that. So in order to participate in like daily activities, obviously you need not only physical health, but mental health as well. You need sound mind and body to do practices that allow you to realize that you are the soul. And so it's not seen as something that needs to be ignored, but something that needs to be taken care of. You need to, like others have said before, you need to, it's like an aid to liberation rather than something that needs to be just ignored or put aside, but something that needs to be emphasized, really.
Igor, how about you?
Yes. Well, I think we are practically on the same page as others. I think it's a balance. I think it's about balance between your personal sense of safety and the personal sense of comfort and being within a community. So, and I think that especially over the last half a year, loneliness. I'm going the mental health is such a wide topic, but I'm going to pick just two. The one is loneliness, and as far as I know, the people, so the mentalhealth.org.uk gives us statistics that 24%, 1 in 4 people felt lonely in the previous 2 weeks now, where the number before the pandemic was just 10%. So it's more than doubled. And loneliness is real, and it's dangerous for people's health, both physical and mental, no less than other illnesses and viruses. So, and there is a requirement in Judaism that certain prayers can only be read in the quorum of 10 people. And I think that I think we share it with other faiths as well, that some prayers can only be read within a community, and that's important. Another thing is the sense of belonging, the sense that you can be yourself in a place in your community. And that's really important. Depending on the society and the community, there are excluded marginalized groups. They sometimes can include women, gay people, trans people, Black people, and others. And I think that it's really important for us to think that it should apply to your community as well, because we have tendency as religious institutions to think that, oh, we welcome everybody. We say we are not like those people who we hear on the TV about. I think it's really important to understand that it can apply to us, and think how we can be as inclusive as possible to hear people's voices, so that people feel unconditionally welcome and unconditional acceptance within our community. And I think that these two factors are quite important.
I think it's a really good point that you touched on there, because one of the questions that I wanted to ask is kind of going what steps do you think of those sectors taken to create that change? Because, when I was younger, I was closeted and I was very much in my own kind of bubble, and very much kept religion away because it wasn't a safe space for me, and I didn't feel there was a reach out for me. And I've discussed this before, every time I would go to the temple, I'd somehow always end up in some form of argument with one of the priests there, because we talk about something and it would just spiral out, and it was, it really wasn't necessary, but it definitely made me go, I don't want to go back there. And obviously now, I say in the last couple of years, where I've really noticed a shift change. I don't feel as anxious as I did before about going to the temple or talking to the priests, or kind of feeling less welcome as it was to speak, because maybe it's me personally, I don't have as many shackles maybe holding me back, and I kind of stopped caring as much in the sense of worrying about what that means for this person, what that means for that person. But I have to say, for me personally, with my faith, I've definitely seen a shift. And I think maybe it's a younger generation coming through and kind of, really kind of evolving that kind of religious language of how they communicate with their communities. But what have you guys done so far, I guess, within your sectors to change that shift? Because it's really important that I think we understand that a bit more. Anyone want to jump in?
Why not? Okay. So as an individual, personally, and Dee, you mentioned in the beginning that, especially culturally, it's not seen as a massive, it's just pushed under the carpet, mental health. Oh, you fine, take whatever, have a bit of medicine, whatever, you'll be fine, it's only a headache, right? And that's a reality. So, especially in my generation, and it's become an issue of mental health. It's always been there, but it's about addressing it. So on a personal level, within the community, I've reached out to a lot of my friends to say, look, I'm here for you if you need a chat or a conversation, whatever. I'm also part of the outreach team within my community for people to talk to, making phone calls and attending virtual events like this, because that's what the world's come to. As in my community, on a personal level, I've taken social media on my Instagram. I've done a lot of posts and talk about mental health, how it's affected me, how I've overcome those challenges as an individual, what my faith teaches, and what people can do to help themselves in overcoming these challenges and difficulties. Because I think it's important to talk about it and not to shy away from it. Because as soon as you start burying the issues, that's when they develop more. And then when you do talk about it, sometimes it's a lot all at once. So just to have that platform for conversation and dialogue, healthy conversations, someone who you trust, someone who's not going to judge you is really important. So I'm trying to do my bit to be that individual for whoever wants that conversation, or help or support or a friendly face to look at and have a chat with. I'm trying to do my bit wherever I can, in any way, shape or form.
I think it's a really fair comment to talk about judgment. I think judgment is a very interesting phrase, particularly when it comes to religion, because I think there is a direct association of people thinking religion and judgment. And like this panel is a prime example of that. Like we've had conversations and we've talked about many different things, and there's always been no judgment. It's been a very free and open conversation. And I think that's what is really lovely to see now, because I don't think, for me anyway, that was the case 10, 15 years ago.
Sorry to cut you off. I think a lot, and I think that's the beauty of religion, especially within Islam. It says that for you, your religion, and for me, my religion, and there's no compulsion in religion. So understanding and accepting everyone for who they are and what they believe in is the first step in achieving or overcoming the issues that people might have, accepting and not being judging.
Yeah. Did anyone else want to jump in on that, or? Go for it, Igor.
Yeah, I totally agree that accepting others and being together, regardless of your faith and beliefs, are really important for people, for people in general. However, there is, I think, it's only a first step.
Mm-hmm.
The next step should be accepting our differences, because I think it is important and nice to talk about things we share. And obviously we share lots of things. We are, overall, we live in the same society. And of course we share many things. But I think the next step and more important step is accepting our differences. Accepting that, okay, some people may, that sometimes people can disagree on some things, but still be friends. And I think that this is what, in a way, what we are lacking today as a society in general. We can and should disagree on things, but still be friends.
Yeah, we can still respect each other.
Absolutely.
It's interesting because like, and I'm sure some of you may have heard this before, but I think it does come down to how and what we teach each other. So for example, when I went to university, I went to Lincoln, which is a very predominantly, at the time, very white area, and didn't really have any Asians there. I think I was probably one of 10 Asians when I went there. And when my dad sat me down and he was like, make sure you look after yourself, all the usual dad chat to make sure I don't cause too much trouble. He used to say to me, if you ever feel alone, because in Lincoln, there's a beautiful and massive cathedral. And he goes, if you ever feel alone, that's a house of God. It doesn't matter what your religion is, you go there. And, you find peace there, and they will open you with welcome arms. And it really meant a lot to me. And I did used to actually go there at least once a month, if not once every 2 months, and just sit there for an hour just to kind of calm down and go through my thoughts. And that's something that was really important to me. That's something that my dad taught me. And I think it's so important to teach that to other people, because I've had so many issues. One of the reasons why I had such a big challenge with my faith was when I finished uni, actually, and I went to India for a month, and I took my best friend with me, who is a white woman. And during our travels, she obviously, in India, you see someone white, they'll get snapped like there's no tomorrow, because she's very pale. So she was just they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. But we were trying to stay in one of our community hotels, I guess, if you could call it that. And they wouldn't allow her to stay. And so that really upset me, because I was just like, I don't understand what this is a problem is. We called up, we discussed it, you're our community, she's staying and living with us. My mum considers her as another daughter, and she turned around to the people that were running it saying this is my daughter-in-law, this is my son's wife, why won't you? I mean, she wasn't, obviously, but she, and I lost it. I completely lost it. I've never gone that mad or angry in my life. I refused to stay there after that. And it really upset me, because I was like, that's not what my community is about. That's not what my religion is about. And it's such a shame that that's what's had to happen. And for someone who is kind of embracing my culture, and that's the kind of image that she got of it, really upset me. I mean, now I know for a fact that things have changed there, but I will put my hands up and go, I will never go to that place again, unless, you know, I absolutely have to, which I do not. There's loads of places in India I can go, but it's, yeah, I think that's what I mean about the communication of kind of that real acceptance that everyone's been talking about. Is kind of going, we really need to try and filter that through the layers and through generational, because, I mean, they came up with some sort of mad rule and I was just like, yeah, it's a whole other big story, but nice to see that shift change. And it's interesting because she didn't see it that way. She was like, I understand why they don't want me to stay here. And I went, I cannot understand it at all. I refuse to understand it. But it's nice to kind of have that bit of evolution. I should just shout out saying, if anybody has any questions or to the particular panelists or to all of them, please put them in the box and I'll make sure I get through them at some point. So I guess without kind of sidestepping too much, let me just look at what I've got here. We've kind of talked about, I guess, what initiatives have you put in to support your communities? I know you've individually reached out and, you know, tried to reach out to friends and family and just check in and make sure they're okay, but have any of your sectors done anything specific? Like, have they put a program in place? Have they created a phone line? You know, have they done anything like that? I'll come to you because we haven't spoken to you for a while. Oh.
Sorry, was that Pooja?
That was Pooja, yeah. Sorry, Pooja, that's me mumbling.
Yeah, so Nees Mandir, which is a popular Hindu mandir in northwest London, they've published a video about looking after mental health, and they also translated it into Gujarati, which is predominantly spoken by my community, so elders can understand as well what's going on, how to take care of yourself. And speaking of elders, I feel like as much as young people talk about mental health and they know to reach out to their friends, they know what's going on, it's really the elders that we also need to engage with them, because they might also be experiencing some of these things like loneliness and anxiety about what's going on, but they can't really talk about it, either because they've never really talked about it in that way or because they have no one to talk to. So you know, these videos like this, they can talk to their children about it, what's going on. There's also an elderly center where older people get together, and you know, previously this happened in person, but right now it's happening on Zoom, on WhatsApp groups, so they still maintain that sense of community without sort of losing the in-person presence, I guess.
Yeah.
Go on, Samson.
So I guess just to touch on a little bit of what we were talking about before, there's a statement that always helps me, kind of guides, that in essentials, we operate in unity. In non-essentials, and to be fair, so many things are non-essentials.
Yeah.
You know, in non-essentials, we ought to operate in liberty, which is in recognizing that other people have a right to think and to be as well. I think everybody has a right to think and to be. And then in all things, we operate in charity, which is another word for love. So regardless of which part of the wall you fall, still love. Do everything in love. Make sure that it is carried out. You speak the truth in love, as one of the scriptures that the Bible reminds me of. And when I look at the life of Jesus Christ, I see him very open, very loving, very accepting of people. He might not, agree with what they do, but he loves the person. And it's genuine. It's a genuine love. It's not a so-called love. And then some of the things that we've put in place, we've been doing like a weekly broadcast of good news. I think we mentioned that the last time. We're still doing that, ensuring that there's a focus on what is good that is going on out there. What are the good things that are still happening? What are the positive things? So that those, especially for those who are shielding, because there are still some people who are shielding who do not get to go out. So in their mind, the world is still this really horrible place, infested with this invisible enemy. And so those programs have really been very useful. we've always operated in micro communities anyway within the family, the Christian family, always operated in really small micro communities. And so COVID has exasperated that. It's even more so, it's really exaggerated that. Especially now with the rule of six, you know, it's even more so that it's working with that. We have daily prayer calls that anybody can dial into, usually during lunchtime and evenings, and anybody from anywhere can feel free to dial into that. We have accountability partnerships that have been set up right around the entire system, and people who are, you know, we've got this neighborhood watch thing now, which is not watch out for your neighbors. It's really a way to say, get to know your neighbors. You know, this is a good time to go knock on the doors and just get to know them by name. You know, I had to do that recently, just kind of walked up and down my street just to get to know them and let them know, you know, I'm number, you know, just over there. But, you know, I'm available. If you, my neighbors about 3-4 doors down, they were building a patio space, you know, 2 incredibly industrious women. And I said, look, would you like me to assist? And they were like, nah, we got this. I'm like, okay, I don't got it. I'm not a DIY guy. So I was glad they said that. But it was just good. So since then, we now have a connection. You know, we say hi to one another because we've had that connection. So the just some of the things that we've been put in place, apart from the programs for the elderly that we still run, the programs for the homeless and things like that.
Igor, should we come to you?
Yes. I think that, well, I'm looking at the big picture. I'm trying to look at the big picture now. And I think that the world before the COVID was predominantly the world which was quite individualistic, and the world which was building walls and fences. But my hope is that now, since the pandemic started, people realized, and I do think that people realized that communities matter, and people need to be together sometimes to survive. And well, we organized like others did. We organized from the very beginning a group of volunteers who phoned up all the community. We started with so-called the most vulnerable in a risk category, but we ended up calling every single person. There is an interesting statistic that after the Second World War, the middle and upper class people were very, very affected because they were those who lost their jobs and source of income businesses, and they experienced a higher risk of depression and sometimes suicide as well. So I think that it is important to think about those who are in the risk category, in the obvious risk category. But I think that by doing that, I think sometimes we can overlook some other people who need support. So I think that the message should be quite clear that everybody should not be too proud to ask for help. And I think and as a community, one of our tasks is to signpost. I mean, to be honest, we all have limited resources. We all NGOs and charities, right? And all we can do sometimes is to signpost, is to keep a list of other organizations and institutions who can help. So sometimes my role as a rabbi and as a community is to signpost to others. Another thing is we can act on a local level always, and it is really important. But no charity, no community, no religious institution is as strong as government. And I think it's really important to realize that now we know that government can act in a very compassionate way and support people in need. And my hope is that it will continue so that the compassion will be the highest value of our politicians, of people in power, and not political need. And I think that this is really important message which should come from religious institutions. We can do and we do things, but we are not as strong as the country.
Thank you, Igor. Saba, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, if you allow.
No.
First of all, the rabbi made a fantastic point. Don't be too proud to ask for help. I love that. Secondly, it's my time, opportunity to show how proud I am of my own community. So the Ahmadi Muslim community, which is spread all across the world, in the hundreds, millions of followers all over the world, we have in every country a local, regional, and national setups. And within those setups, there are 5 auxiliary organizations all across the world. And they're responsible for a certain age category, for their well-being, for their religious upbringing, for their secular knowledge and education, as well as looking after their mental health and making sure they're involved in the community. So bearing that in mind, every local, regional, and national coordinator is responsible for holding classes, for making phone calls and organizing events. And it's through these events and one-to-one relationships and connections with people in which the community is tackling any issues which individuals are dealing with in regards to mental health. Not even that, family issues or issues to do with alcohol or drugs or relationships or whatever. The community is there on the forefront trying to deal with those issues. So that's as a community what we're doing internally. Externally, we've got a helpline which people can call and discuss any issues which they might have, or they need help, or especially during COVID-19, if someone needed shopping or they couldn't get their medication or whatever, the community were there to help out. And in Manchester alone, I know that because I'm from Manchester, the community helps over 15,000 households. So that's what the community are doing amongst the community itself, but also serving the community, the wider community outside, because Islam teaches that you cannot fulfill God's rights until you fulfill the rights of his creation. So we have a moral responsibility to bring everyone up with us and to help everyone wherever they might need help.
So I want to talk about, firstly, in terms of how religion and routine help with mental health. But before I move on to that, there's something for me as someone who battles with religion on a day-to-day basis. The one side of the religion that I obviously love is the cultural side of things. And that's the bit where I feel celebrates my people, my family, my friends, all of those kind of things. And I guess particularly during COVID, it's quite difficult because, especially being part of the Hindu faith, we love a festival and we love to dance and we love to eat. And so it's one of those things that, like, there's one time of year, which is Navaratri, which I'll let Pooja talk about if she wants to, but it's a section couple of days where it's just full on dancing and eating. And I generally did not even think about it until last week. And I went, oh my God, we're not gonna be able to do that this year. And I generally was like slightly heartbroken about it, because I was like, that's the one time of year where I can like really let myself go in the sense of, but within my community rather than, in a nightclub, which we can't do now anyway. But it was just, it's interesting. So I wondered if there's like any kind of festivals that you've had already or you've got coming up where you've had to put in, I guess, COVID restrictions or distancing or, limitations, or have you just had to cancel it altogether or do virtual ones? Because I know you guys have done virtual sermons, which is great, but I wondered if the kind of the more festive side of it, I guess I should say, is has there been any trickiness with that, or have you found like great solutions? I'm going to come to you, Pooja, because obviously I'm very interested in if anything's happening with Navaratri.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's we won't be able to celebrate it this time. But it's like a bit off topic. But one of my friend groups was like, "Oh, wear matching outfits at home and then just do it over Zoom," which doesn't really encapsulate the joy of dancing in person. But I suppose that's something. But yeah, one of the more interesting festivals, well, not festivals, but I guess a praxis. It's called a Vishva Shanti Mahapuja, and it literally means prayers for world peace. And there's all these intricate patterns with rice done on a platform, and then flowers and lamps and just like powders, different powders. Normally it's done at the temple in a prayer hall, and they just hand it to you. The volunteers just hand it to you. But this time around, because of COVID, they mailed all the materials via post, and then we had to arrange it ourselves at home. And so it just took me 20 minutes to read the instructions, trying to understand what was going on. And then I had to YouTube a few things. And then, yeah, it's just, but it was really nice doing it with my family. And that was something I never thought I'd ever do in my life, but yeah, COVID.
Yeah, I
and
guess
then,
it's a different way of tackling it, isn't it? Like doing Rangoli with the family is quite a community thing. So.
And then the whole Sanskrit chanting and everything was webcast, and I never really understood it before, even though I know Sanskrit. I never really understood all the details, but the webcast included English translations at the bottom. So for the first time, I actually understood what was going on. That was nice. Yeah.
How about anybody else? Oh, go on.
Okay then. Events and stuff which have been now over Zoom. And to be honest, I felt a bit sad and frustrated and upset that we can't go to the mosque and we can't do Friday prayers together. And even Eid was cancelled this year.
Yeah,
not
that's
cancelled
insane.
in the sense of you can't go to the mosque and pray in congregation.
Yeah.
So I had to lead Friday, the Eid prayer and deliver the sermon at home. And one thing which was nice was that I was able to pray with my parents. All of us in the same room together, me, my wife, my kids, as in both under 2, so they weren't doing the actions, but and my brothers were there. And it was nice to have that sense of family community, as Pooja said as well, that she did it with the family. So that's really nice to have that aspect of it. But I do miss, and I'm sure everyone else who goes to a congregation or has a congregation who they look after or are responsible for, do miss that sense of unity and togetherness, because I think that's really important to have that sense of brotherhood and sisterhood within your local community. But like I said, Friday sermons are now being done at home with your families, and so is Eid. So let's see what the future holds. Mosques again can only have a certain number of people, but such is life.
Yeah.
And we'll all be loyal citizens of every country which we live in, and we'll abide by the law of the land and just make the best of a bad job, really.
Yeah.
And Igor, did you have anything in terms of events that you've had to adjust?
Yes. So yes, Judaism is very dependent on communal worship and communal and gathering together. So, and it's been a real sense of loss for many people of practice. And in general, when I speak to people, some of them say, "Oh, every day feels like Thursday." And you were absolutely right, Dee, when you said that religion can give you a sense of structure in life. And the question is, how do you choose to structure your life? And so many of us live from salary to salary, right? From paycheck to paycheck. And if you have a different structure in life, for example, from festival to festival in your religion, it gives you a different sense of time. First of all, it connects you to generations before you, because you know that your ancestors celebrated the same festivals. It gives you a sense of connecting to the future, that your future generations will celebrate it in one form or another. So it elevates you beyond the time, and which is, I think, quite important now. And understanding that, okay, many things happened before, and I don't know how I don't know much about different cultures, but Jewish culture, that one of the writers once described a typical Jewish festival is they try to destroy us, they didn't succeed, let's eat. And this is just a summary of pretty much every Jewish festival. In a way, it shows that we've been, not we, but our ancestors and our people have been through many, many events in life, some joyous, some horrible, but we survived and we are here. And it gives you a sense of presence. It gives you a sense of hope for the future as well. So this is one of the things. And of course, we had to do quite a significant upgrade in the technology within our synagogue. So we now installed multiple cameras. We updated our sound equipment. So now we'll live stream not just with one static camera, but with a more dynamic production. And we also project all our prayers so that people who watch a live stream see it on the YouTube, basically, all the prayer books, and as well as people who lead the service. We also installed the opportunity for people to lead services from homes. So now we are allowed to have up to 30 people in the synagogue. But for a big community like my community, 30 people is nothing. It feels very empty. And but still, there are hundreds and hundreds of people who watch the service on the YouTube. So in a way, all rabbis suddenly became YouTubers and use social media, vloggers, which is the reality we have to adjust to.
You'll become influencers before you know it.
Exactly. Yes. Just 2 days ago, the most sacred day in Jewish calendar happened online, which is called Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. It happens 10 days after the New Year, the Jewish New Year. And like in any other cultures, New Year is not only a celebration, which is also a celebration, but also a time to reflect, time to think about your past. And the key word for the Jewish autumn festivals is repentance, is to think, what can you change in your life? And oh my God, so much has changed in our life.
I mean, it's constantly changing, isn't it?
Yes, it's constantly changing. And this sense, I think that in a way, we will never come back to how it was before, because now people feel that they suddenly can be included in the community, even though they, in a way that they were not able before. People with special needs suddenly feel in the same level with other congregants. People who live far away from a synagogue feel on the same level. In a way, it opens so many opportunities. But I think it's also important to recognize the sense of loss. So it's a balance between change, between development and evolution, and the sense of loss of something. And I think that both are important. So hope for the future and realizing that we probably in a difficult position now.
Samson, did you want to add anything?
Just to piggyback on that and say that, of course, structure is necessary in life. It just helps to organize the mind. So, you encourage people to either take up a hobby and do it regularly, go to the gym, do something, take up arts, whatever it is, just to organize the mind. And most religious practices have a certain cycle and order to it that helps to organize, how we think and just how we frame our world. One of the things that I think we can take on from this is that some of those things have been disrupted. Maybe now we've had to develop and build structures and systems that are resistant to disruption, that are more agile, more apt to be flexible. And those are really key things. It's almost like the evolution of religion, because now it can adapt to a new environment. It can adapt to a new type of existence. And regardless of what happens then, we've developed this antibodies now that as human beings, we know how to exist in both the old world and this new world that we've been put into. And hopefully, if there's another new world coming up, we've shown ourselves that we can adapt. I agree, we embrace the sense of loss, but there's a celebration in our ability to adapt and to grow and to be.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I think structure does help a lot with mental health. I'm not a fan of routine. I don't like too much structure. I like a bit, just me personally. Because it makes me feel, I don't know, I guess boring or monotonous, and it's just not my being. But then I know so many other people, like my mum, for example, she has a very strict morning routine of when she gets up, she washes, she prays, she does all of her puja, and she lights, her candles, and she can't function in her day unless she's done that. Oh, she's also got to have her cup of chai in the morning as well, otherwise it's all hell breaks loose. So it's interesting, because I think structure is very important, especially I think with your mental health. And I think it's something that you need. Like the structure that I've learned to build for myself is just to not have it at dedicated times. I don't necessarily always pray, but I do meditate quite a lot. And so I always meditate at different times of the day. One, it doesn't give me too much structure, but two, it gives me enough to make me feel like level all the way through. Do you think that lack of structure or not being able to do it, so example, for going to the mosque, going to the synagogue, going to the temple, going to the church, is it not being able to do that has caused more of a problem? Or do you think that because of the solutions and the alternatives that we've managed to create through social media, through online, has actually helped build that back in a little bit, just a little bit differently? I don't know.
I think it's done it in a different way, but I don't, it is definitely not a replacement of, because the community and that sense of belonging at that very tactile, physical level is still very crucial, still very needed. But obviously under the circumstances, we have to be wise and also be law-abiding citizens, but what it has done is it's forced us in my culture. One of the things that we say to one another is that the reality that necessity is the mother of invention, and we've had to invent some new things because of the necessity. So that in itself is a positive. It's a good thing that we've had to invent those things. Now those things have been invented. They cannot be uninvented.
Yeah.
We can only grow in them. We can add them to what we had before. We've not done away with what we had before. We've just put it on pause. But now we've got these extra things that we can bring in to make it even richer, even much more. I mean, I love the point about people who, the leveler that COVID has become, for people with special needs, disabilities, people who live far away, people, even economic issues. It's somehow just brought about the ability for a more inclusive, a more outreaching opportunity.
It's amazing how much balance comes into play here. I don't know, Pooja, interrupt me if I'm wrong in here, but I guess in Hindu culture, there is a real ethos on either karma or balance. Out of every goodness, there is badness, and out of every badness, there is goodness, but it depends on how you want to interpret and give yourself that perspective. And out of all of this chaos that is COVID and everything else that's going on in the world, I do find that there are little wins in life that have really kept me going. One of the things is that there are a couple of colleagues, for example, who I've become so much more closer to that I wasn't necessarily not close to them before, but it's really brought us together, and we really created a nice little tight knit, which is wonderful. It's a shame that I can't see them every day, but it still brought us close together. I'm just conscious of time because I know we do have a question. So I'm just gonna talk quickly on two things. So is there any very one-liner tips or advice that you could give to help diffuse negative forms of thinking? So whether that's anger, hurt, loneliness, and let's tie that in with acts of kindness, because for me, acts of kindness is really important. I love giving things to people. I love making things for people, and one of the things, without sounding like too much of a cliche, is that I love to send flowers. I generally, one of the things that I love doing in life is sending flowers. Wow, it upset Saba clearly because I didn't send him flowers, so he decided to not. I'm only joking.
No, sir, I bet my phone's on low battery, that's why, sorry.
So yeah, if there's anything that you could quickly think of in terms of tips for diffusing negative thoughts, I guess, and what are your thoughts on acts of kindness? What can we do as a society, not only to our neighbours, to our friends, family, to strangers? What can we do to help build that community and make it a bit stronger?
I think number one, in terms of just what can we do to diffuse things, is to encourage people to stay connected. just stay. There's going to be such a push or a drive to isolate yourself. You know, some people, especially when you're not feeling very loved or accepted, or you wanna hide away. And the encouragement is stay connected. You might not be connected to the bigger, larger community, but even if it's the micro community, just stay connected. Most living things, once you disconnect them from a larger body, it starts to either die or fade away, or it becomes at greater risk. So being together is a key thing. So pushing community is very, very important. Reaching out, and if you notice somebody's not reaching out, then you reach out to them. Find a way to do that. In terms of acts of kindness, it's just a reminder of how human we are and how much we need one another. Nobody's an island. I don't care how rich, how powerful, we all need one another. The Bible talks about us being part of a body. We are part of the body. We are all part of the organs. The heart is incredibly important, but the heart in itself is not the body. The legs are important, the eyes are important, the liver, the body. All these things are very important, but they only work when we are connected. And when each part is supplying the other part what the other part needs for us as an entirety to be able to function.
Thank you, Samson. Anyone else want to give any tips or advice? No, if not,
I think I scared them.
Okay, no.
Thank you, Saba.
I've got you, Sam. Samson, I'm with you. Do you know what? D, you made a good point, acts of kindness, but you can only be kind to others when your mental health and you're in the right frame of mind and body yourself. So what's worked for me, and I know I talk a lot, but I hope these points will help others because it helped me during lockdown. And it's if you make sure your mind, your soul, and your body are healthy, this will allow you to have positive mental health. So what do I mean by having, how can you look after your mind? So doing different stuff, like maybe do some coloring, or do a word search, or watch something on Netflix, or watch Bake Off, or do something which is maybe out of your ordinary to take you away from life. Secondly, how do you look after your soul? Whether you prostrate, whether you meditate, whether you're D and you used to go and sit in the cathedral and have time for yourself, do that. That's how you can re-energize your soul. And looking after your body, eat well, exercise. A healthy body is a healthy mind. So if you make sure these three components are in good shape, your soul, your mind, and your body, it will naturally lead to positive mental health. Once you're in the right state of mind and you're in a good place yourself, then the next natural step is to take everyone else with you. And how do you help others? How can you reach out to others? It might be a simple text, might be a phone call. I know personally, I've had so many video calls, FaceTimes with people who I might not have connected with before because of lockdown. It's been fab. I've loved it. Text them, call them, send a message. Use your social media, use your Instagram or whatever to put a message out and say, a box, say, if you need a chat, I'm here. Be that person, be that shoulder for people to lean on when they need help. So once you're energized and you're with it and you're on it, then you can spread that energy and love to other people and take them on that, or bring them on board with the ship of love and sail through together.
Ship of Love. There's a song in there somewhere.
Let's do
it. Igor, did you want to say something?
Yes, just one small thing. I'm probably the wrong rabbi to tell you what to do in your life, or anybody, but I think that sometimes it is okay to acknowledge that life is not normal. I think it's even healthy to say that, okay, it's not, I'm not entirely okay now. And just to acknowledge this fact for yourself. You know that they say that it takes about 7 years to get used to a new city or a new place after you move house or after you move country. It's not something to do with language or anything, but it's more to do with the ways around, with knowing where to buy things, with knowing your way around without Google Maps. It's just And in a way, the entire world moved country in the last half a year. And we need to be patient in a way and wait until we get used to the new reality, to the new to new life, to the new country. And it is okay to say that. So what I think we should not do is to give people false hope, because that can be actually dangerous. When we say that, okay, life will be normal in half a year. What if not? The truth is we don't know. And I think that it's okay just to say that it's not okay. It's not, the life is not normal now. Let's build it all together. Let's figure it out together, how to be in this new country.
Yeah, I guess it just takes time, right? One step at a time is what I always have to remind myself. One thing at a time, one step at a time. The unknown is scary, but it can also be exciting, but it's about how you want to kind of take that challenge on. Okay, so I'm very conscious of time. So before we wrap up and I ask you all to give me a quote for when you're in a time of need, I've got one question that says, have you seen particular members of your community re-engage or perhaps engage for the first time or in a new way with religion, either as a result of COVID or as a result of seeing religion evolving within modern day society? And that's from Sheena. Anyone want to jump in on that before we go?
Come on, let's do it. I've seen personally on my previous experience on social media that during COVID-19, during lockdown, I would do lives every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, just talking about hope and positivity and faith and encouraging people to stay focused and driven, and that this all will come to an end, and with time we'll go back to the routine of life. During those days, my numbers on social media soared up because people were looking for that rope of hope. They were looking for something to turn to because they'd realized that we actually haven't got complete power and capacity to overcome this challenge, and we need something else to turn to. So they turned to faith. I know, Dee, you spoke about this. We've spoken about it before as well, how you feel you're more connected to your faith now, more so than you did before. So people have turned to faith, and even the word prayer, I know the Google search for the word prayer rocketed during COVID-19. That was a report put out by Metro. So yeah, I've personally seen people engaging and turning to faith and looking for that sense of hope and positivity.
Okay, so I've just realized it's 1 o'clock. So I'm going to go round and ask you all to give me your quote for a time in need. Pooja, I'll start with you. And if you give us your quote.
Okay, my quote is Sarvam Kalu Idam Brahma. So everything is Brahman, like everything, everyone is God. And that really helps me, like be accepting, be loving towards everyone.
Thank you. Igor, we'll come to you.
2 quotes.
Go for it.
The first one is from Frozen 2. All you can do sometimes is the next right thing. The Jewish quote is, the world stands on 3 things: Al Torah, on teaching and learning; Al Ha'avodah, on service, both religious service and service to others; and Al Gmilut Chasadim, and on acts of loving kindness.
Thank you. Saba.
So my favorite quote is from the Holy Quran. It's a verse in the Holy Quran in chapter 2, which says that Allah does not burden any soul beyond its capacity. So God does not burden any soul beyond its capacity, which means you have the capacity within yourself to overcome every challenge which is put your way.
Thank you. And Samson. Oh, you're on mute, Samson.
Thank you. It was probably a positive thing that it was on mute. I was going to quote from Spider-Man or something like that. No, I'm joking. No, but from Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for the good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. Basically, no matter what it is that is happening, it's okay. It will work out for good. doesn't mean that you will feel it good. It might hurt, but just hang on. Eventually, when you look back at the totality of it, you'll realize that if you just leave your life in God's hands, it'll work out for good.
Well, thank you, everyone. So I'll finish on saying that something that was always said to me was, it's okay to tell someone you love them, and it's okay to show them that you love them too. So firstly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for today. I'm sure we'll have many more sessions to come. I know there have been a lot of ideas flying about. If anybody has anybody from their religious sector that they would want them to join in, please get in contact with me or Bintul, and we'll happily help pull this together. Honestly, this was great. Thank you so much. Like, I already feel a lot better, and I feel like there's a lot more things that I could be going out and looking for. And yeah, thank you very much.